It's showtime. Get over here!
Johnny will definitely die.
You want to know what makes a hero? It's not destiny. It's not something you're born with. It's searching for greatness.
Johnny Cage, you have been chosen for Mortal Kombat.
Then realizing you've had it in you this entire time.
Whoa! I really don't feel comfortable hitting a girl.
Don't worry. You won't.
Yo! Send me back. I want to go back.
The rules of the tournament are simple. Our fates would not be settled by the size of our armies. They would be decided by combat.
I'm not some great warrior. I'm not some champion.
This is a war for the fate of your world.
Finish him!
Me?
Earth belongs to me.
We do not kneel!
Our only chance is to face this together.
Let's go, baby.
You, Johnny Cage, are a part of this now.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. They dropped a brand new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer, so we'll break it all down. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references to all the different games, the older games, as well as the original Mortal Kombat movies. Raise your hand if you saw those original movies when they first came out in the theater back in the day. At a certain point, they went direct to video, so you couldn't see them in a theater, but the first couple ones were in theaters. Just starting at the beginning of the trailer and working our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs, WTF moments. They start this trailer with the voiceover from Johnny Cage talking about what it is to basically pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. There's this whole speech about what it is to actually be great, and his speech actually flows a lot with the narrative that we just got on Night of the Seven Kingdoms with Sir Duncan the Tall, who was born a commoner and eventually became the greatest knight in Westeros history. Very, very loose connection to some of the things that they were dealing with, the narrative they were dealing with in the Game of Thrones universe recently. Just a coincidence that that also happened to be a big tournament arc. But the whole idea is that in the present day, the Mortal Kombat universe, Johnny Cage is a washed-up, former big star from the 90s, and it's meant to be a big comp to how big Mortal Kombat was in the 90s. It completely changed the face of fighting games in the 90s. It was massive. So part of the joke here is that he's at a Comic-Con convention, but nobody cares about him because they're more enamored with this comic book franchise over in the distance on the other side of the convention floor, which is meant to be a comp to Marvel movies, DC movies, big comic book movies basically, which took over in the early 2000s with the first X-Men movie, then the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, then eventually the MCU. Zoom and enhance in the background too. There are a bunch of jokes here with a lot of the titles and the stuff going on at this convention, like there's a cosplay rehab area here. There's a little banner for Radiant Studios in the background. I think that's also meant to be a slight Easter egg for Midway Games and NetherRealm Studios, like all the people who have made the original Mortal Kombat games back in the day. Speaking of which, I do think there's meant to be an Ed Boon cameo somewhere in the movie. There's also a cameo in the previous trailer from the former voice actor of Johnny Cage in the games themselves. So there will be a bunch of sly cameos going on in the background throughout the movie. When the camera pans over to the comic book booth, the Killer Comics is meant to be a comp to Marvel Comics. There's also a Swamp Thing poster, so there's actually some actual real-life comics in the background too. Supposedly James Gunn is going to make a new Swamp Thing movie at some point. Swamp Thing is a DC property. There's a real quick flashback to Edenia with Jerrod and his daughter Kitana, his wife Sindel, before the tournament with Shao Kahn in Outworld, before it was absorbed by Outworld. There are several different flashbacks to that to explain the tournament in present day to all the characters, the actual tournament arc of Mortal Kombat. Supposedly, this movie will be different from the last Mortal Kombat movie in that there'll be more of the actual tournament arc than there was in that first new version of the Mortal Kombat franchise. There's another quick flashback to Hanzo Hashi before he died and became Scorpion. This might be part of a vision because we see Johnny Cage and Kano meeting with him, and he's still in hell, he's still Scorpion in present day, and he might just be showing them visions of his life before he became Scorpion. There's a fight going on between the heroes at the top of this temple here. I believe this is meant to be Jax fighting Liu Kang and Cole from the first movie, and it's one of the only scenes that we see Cole in for the entire first and second now trailers, meaning that Cole might wind up dying pretty early in this movie if he's not in the movie that much. Everybody start posting your death predictions. When Johnny Cage references birthright, destiny, being born into something special, they show a shot of Kitana in present day. I believe the main focus, like the main narrative of the movie, aside from the just general tournament arc, is also Kitana trying to defeat Shao Kahn and kill him to get revenge for the death of her father and to try and free Edenia from Outworld. So even though they're hyping Johnny Cage as being like the main character of this movie, I actually think it's really going to wind up being Kitana, being like the main character to actually wind up killing Shao Kahn. I can't quite tell who this person is that's been burnt to a charcoal briquette. I'm guessing this is in hell because of the fires behind them here. And also seems like it's been a fight with Scorpion. There's a big fight that Scorpion has against Noob Saibot. Also with Kano and Johnny Cage in hell also fighting other aspects of Noob Saibot. So it might just be part of that bigger fight. There's a real quick shot of Raiden, and supposedly we're going to get a scene of him meeting with the gods of the Mortal Kombat universe at some point during this movie, so they are escalating things in the narrative from the first movie. We get that real quick scene of him coming to Earth to recruit him with Sonya Blade. I believe this is meant to be a 1995 model Mustang, which is the year that the original Mortal Kombat movie was released. We get that same scene, it seems like it's right after he's come to their team, and Kitana just absolutely hands him his ass. When he's yelling about sending him back to Earth, it's just the place where their team has been staying while they're preparing for the tournament. This is another flashback to Kitana and Sindel when they were younger, when Shao Kahn defeated Jerrod, her father, in the previous tournament, causing Outworld to absorb Edenia, because we do see him killing Jerrod later in the trailer. We go back to present day, we get a new scene of Kung Lao and Liu Kang. Kung Lao is back. He died at the end of the last movie, so we'll see how they explain him coming back in this movie. There's a scene of Johnny Cage and Kano seeming like they're getting some lesson from Hanzo Hashi, where he's showing them some visions, the landscape changes around him. Then we actually see this really cool transition scene where he changes into his Scorpion form. Then we get the fight with Noob Saibot, and the second character in black is just another aspect of Noob Saibot that he's peeled off of himself, and it seems like he creates a bunch of those, and that's who Johnny Cage and Kano wind up also fighting here in hell with Scorpion, and they're just helping Scorpion defeat Noob Saibot before he performs his finishing move on him. Most of the rest of the trailer is just a series of different fights and different combinations of characters fighting across the movie. There's a real quick shot of Jade showing up, then fighting Jax. There's a couple different scenes of their fight broken up over the rest of the trailer. Johnny Cage then fighting Baraka in Outworld with Sonya Blade watching. It seems like the rest of the team is watching, and they actually show a bunch more scenes in context from the rest of this fight throughout the rest of the trailer too, where basically the entire rest of the team is just kind of chuckling at Johnny Cage, waiting for him to either die or get his ass handed to him, and we actually do get a couple cool moves from him. Mostly it just seems like it's a practice fight, like that's why the rest of the team is there. They're just waiting to see, and they challenge each other just to give Johnny Cage some practice. I think the only bad thing that I've heard about the movie, and I don't know if I would call this a bad thing, but it's kind of unfortunate, is that he doesn't have any actual nut punches in this movie. There are a lot of comedic moments across the trailer here, so I'm guessing there is a lot of jokey stuff going on with his character throughout the movie, but they don't go that far with some of the jokes. Maybe they felt like nut punches was one joke too far. There are a bunch more scenes of them in hell. I'm not sure why they go. I'm assuming it's to get Scorpion's help. Like they need his sage wisdom, or they actually want him to fight on their team. There's a real quick shot of Kano getting his cybernetic eye ripped out, then coming back to, like he passes out, then comes back to, freaking out. It seems like more of a comedic moment just based on Jade and Kitana's reactions. Then there's a scene of Jade taking Kitana in chains in front of Shao Kahn. Maybe this is just a ruse. Maybe Jade serves him at the beginning of the movie, or they're trying to make it seem like she's switching sides and they're just trying to trick Shao Kahn. He mentions conquering Earthrealm through the tournament next during the present day of the actual movie, like he's wanting to take over Earth next. Like I said, there's much more of an actual tournament that they adhere to during this movie than they did in the previous movie. When Shao Kahn says seize him, that's also from the original games.
Freeze him!
He said it! He said it!
There's a real quick shot of Sindel fighting Sonya Blade using her abilities. We'll see how they explain her backstory. They've kind of changed her backstory a couple times throughout the older and then the more modern Mortal Kombat games, where she goes from being good before to turning evil later to always being good, and then in some versions, like in the newer versions before they retconned it again, she was always evil. Now with the newest Mortal Kombat games, the idea is that she was always good. So maybe in the movie, this is sort of like a mind control magic situation, just forcing her to be evil. There's a real quick scene of Kitana trying to rally the former people of Edenia against Shao Kahn. This might be a little bit later in the movie. Like I said, most of the narrative, I think, focuses on her particular arc in killing Shao Kahn to try and free Edenia. Then there's a really big moment that you probably spotted. This wasn't in the previous trailer. Shao Kahn using his power to absorb Raiden's soul. Maybe he's not a huge character in this movie. Maybe Raiden isn't a huge character in the movie. And this is how they justify him not being around to actually help out the team. There's a real quick montage of characters Liu Kang and Sonya, Jade and Hell, then more of her fight with Jax in a completely different scene, Liu Kang using his finishing move against Shao Kahn inside his palace and trying to use his fatality against him. My assumption is that that won't work because I do think that it's going to wind up being Kitana to be the one to kill Shao Kahn. Then there's a scene of Sonya and Liu Kang fighting Shao Kahn together, Kitana versus Jade in a completely different scene. Then we start to get a montage of the characters saying their trademark lines, doing some of their finishing moves, their fatalities, and some references to the original Mortal Kombat movie and the original games. So Johnny Cage's Showtime is one of his quotes from the games. Scorpion then says his line from the games, get over here, performing his fatality on Noob Saibot. There's a much longer montage of a bunch of other different fights with the classic Mortal Kombat theme music against it. This warehouse fight, though, is Johnny Cage in an actual scene from one of his in-universe movies. I think this is meant to be the Caged Heat movie that you see the posters for at that Comic-Con early in the trailer. And of course, the Mortal Kombat cry at the end of the trailer is from the original theme song in that first movie. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if you spotted any other Easter eggs or references to the original games, the original movies that I didn't talk about during this video or my previous video, just write it below in the comments. But there's a bunch of stuff going on in the background too, a bunch of references to the original games, stuff in real life from back in the 90s when those games were first coming out, the original movies. But the really big reminder is that the movie is coming out May 8th in IMAX. Now, the reason why they delayed it from last year is because they actually thought that they would turn it into a much bigger deal. It was going to be a much smaller release when it was still releasing last year. So it seems like they're really confident that the movie is going to do really well. So hopefully we'll get some more footage real soon. I already did a video for that last big trailer that they released. Click here for that, and click here for my Night of the Seven Kingdoms Season 2 video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.